I started with this image because these large prints, my pieces are the large prints on bark paper, one over here, one over there, two in the alcoves, and then these are newer pieces. The large prints are the result of a residency I had at the Deering Estate in Cutler Ridge, which is a historic structure. Charles Deering was an early conservationist, and the photographs were taken by a man named John Kunkel Small, who was the chief botanist at the New York Botanical Garden, and he became good friends with Charles Deering, and Charles Deering funded his sort of expeditions throughout Florida finding native plants and so forth. And so these are historical photographs of his. And the books are botanical illustrations by a woman named, I'm just having a brain freeze. Anyway, she was a Brit, actually, but she worked for the Botanical Garden, and Mary Eaton. And she went along with Small on some of his expeditions. She would gather the plants, take them back to whatever shack they were staying in or whatever, and then she would do like a full color illustration. So the books are full of her illustrations. The thing about my practice is that it has a lot to do with history and with news and with research. And when I got the residency at Deering, I got a project residency, so I was able to go into the archives, go up to the Botanical Garden, talk to the archivist there, and it was really a great project. It has to go to that, right?
Let me see if I can pass.
Here's the book. Okay, good.
There you go.
Okay, next. Come on.
Do you want another one?
These are small prints of photographs that I took. Oh, now we went too far. Okay.
If you want, I can do it for you.
Okay. Sorry. I don't want to take more than my time because everybody's very, very wonderful artists here. So I put this one in because this was a very early piece of mine. This goes back probably about 20 years. And this was a series that I did where I was photographing plants and I was printing them onto 8.5 by 11 pieces of Japanese paper that was coded for digital printing. And you can see that I didn't try to match them. I wanted that kind of breaking up of the surface in the color and also the fact that they were different sheets. And that's something that I used in these large prints as well because they were done with 9 separate pieces of the image that's put together. Okay. Another thing that I did years ago, and I continue to do sometimes, are these drawings of trees. And I'm very interested in the negative space, so what I did was I took a picture of the tree and I gridded it off in Photoshop, and then I just took like a horizontal section of it, and each one of those pieces is on a, those little books, you know what I'm talking about, the really nice paper, what are they called? You know what I mean. So this one was pen and ink, and I used different materials as well. So as far as sustainability, you can keep going. My grandparents had a scrap paper company in Chicago. My grandmother, who is really kind of like the woman that sort of represented strength and kind of smart savviness to me. She was an immigrant. She was an immigrant from Russia, but she and my grandfather started this company that they would get old books, they would shred them and sell them to paper mills to make new paper, to make cardboard. So that was something that was always in my mind, because when I was a little kid, I would go there and I would see these bales of shredded paper, and I found myself in grad school and I was like shredding paper and I'm thinking, because they always say, you gotta learn to talk about your work. Okay, where does it come from? And then I started thinking that's where it came from. So this, that last piece is kind of related in the sense that I took book pages and I I cut the negative space out from an image of tree branches. And then I went on to do these newspaper pieces, which is what most people know me for. I used the front page of mostly New York Times, this one's Wall Street Journal, and also the London Independent. And I would cut, it's all cut by hand. And so what I was doing is creating like a, the negative space would be one pattern and the content would be another pattern, and they kind of play off of each other. And they're very delicate looking, very lacy. You can go to the next one. This one is from when they were talking about the pandemic. This represents the number of cases.
Next.
And this one is from the London Independent when there was the bombing in the subway. So again, same kind of thing. And then do the next one. Then I started doing these photograms where I would put the newspaper on top of photo paper and I would let the sun expose it. And then I would scan it and make them into prints. I feel like I've got too much stuff in here, so I should go fast. Just say yes. We have a debate tonight. Just cut us off, when it's our turn.
Is there anything else that you want to add? I can look for it when it's like 12. So is there anything like we could?
Okay, let me just see what else I put. You can just kind of look at these. Oh, this one I did want to talk about because we're going to talk about like public performance and things. So these were T-shirts from different marches, like March for Our Lives, from political marches, the Women's March. And what I did was I cut them like I do. I seem to want to cut everything. And then I dipped them into plaster so that they're stiff. And I hung them on the wall, and I decorated them with artificial flowers because it kind of reminded me of when there's a tragedy, you see like a fence with flowers put on it. And it was around that time that the Surfside collapse happened. So I decorated it like that, and then when I have studio visits, I invite people to put flowers in. I think I might have one with some kids on it on the next. Yeah. So I got some fresh flowers and I had them do that. And this is more recent work that I'm still working with the newspaper. This is blowing up images from the newspaper. You can see like the Ben-Day dots in there. Another one like that. Another one like that.
Oh.
And this is the most recent thing I did. It's a leaf. And again, I'm kind of tearing up the paper and putting it back together because I like that texture. And it also sort of represents kind of my view of the world as being somewhat disjointed and pulling it together. And just wanting to draw people's attention by the different shapes.
That's it.
Okay, that is all.
And with the conversation, we're still going to,
right,
we
okay.
can always refer back to the...
Okay,
Shall we continue with Milena?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so if you want, you can start while I look for the video, and we will play it in the background. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect.
I prefer to kind of be here so I can see what's going on. I'm going to talk while the video goes on. I made BTG. BTG is this big piece of cloth. It represents my umbilical cord, my conversations with life, my conversations with Earth. My biological clock was ticking, and it was like my body needed to talk. I needed to express myself through my art, which is what we always do. In 2014, 10 years ago, I went to India to take an art residency in weaving and textiles. I had no idea what I was going to do. I just wanted to go see something else. I wanted to go to a different country, but a very different country, not just South America, or I needed to go somewhere else. So I went to India, and there I learned this amazing technique which is called eco-print. So I work with plants. My work is made out of plants. So I'm always looking for plants to test. I'm always testing different plants. Not every plant has a pigment, but most of them do. But you have to learn how to discover it, and it's through a technique that you start finding it. So what you do, this technique, is that you start looking for different plants that provide different colors. And this was in 2014 when I went back to Colombia. I'm from Colombia. When I went back to Colombia, I started testing every single plant that crossed my path. I would test it. So you start kind of becoming, and then you have to become very organized, because some plants you work on, some plants work, some plants don't work. And then I came across the teak. Teak gives you like this intestinal, this purplish color, this intestinal color that when I saw it, when I tested that plant, I knew that was the plant that I needed for my work. At that moment, I wasn't sure what was going on with me. I know what was going on, but I wasn't sure how I was going to make my project. Also, the plant that I found, I could not work with it in Bogota. I lived in Bogota. I had to travel to Medellin, an hour away from Medellin. So it was like something that I did have to program. So I programmed my trip to my uncle's farm in Medellin, which they had a teak tree crop. So I was there a week. I had to do this whole project in 1 week by myself, and I didn't finish. I was working from 5:30 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. This is something that you have to boil, so you can't put the whole thing in one pot because it won't fit. So you have to do it like 4 feet. You have to do it by pieces. And I didn't finish. So I went to Bogota, and at one moment I was like, mud. Okay, so that's why from one side it's darker. It goes from this side is the darker part. That's the one that has the mud, and then it goes from it has like a. This piece, I'm always taking pictures of it. I'm always looking for locations. And this one right here, this was in California. And California was when I got to experience this piece the most. This was during COVID. I would go to that mountain by myself. She was like my therapy. She's been my therapy. It's a piece that you have to be in a meditative state of mind, and also in very good physical conditions, because I work by myself most of the time. Or my husband sometimes helps me, but very few times. My sister has helped me, but I'm usually the one that does it I'm usually taking this by myself, so you have to fly it with one hand. First I started taking pictures with a camera. My camera fell in the ocean, and then I've been working, yeah, exactly. And then I've been working with a phone. I decided instead of buying a camera, I'll spend maybe a little bit more money on a good telephone, because I have to fly it, and then, so it's like, you don't know, each picture is completely different, because you don't know what the day is going to be like. You don't know if it's going to be windy, or if it's going to rain, if it's going to get stuck, if you're going to get stuck. So it's become my therapy. Sometimes when I was stuck, I remember those COVID years. When I was stuck, I would go to that mountain and I would just drag it and fight with it. And so I had to, everything has a process in life. So you have to learn how to fold it. You have to know, okay, I have to be patient. Because you can just kind of put it all together and stuck it in a bag, but that's not the point. You know, you want to take care of your work, so you have to, everything has a process, everything has a time. And this piece has taught me that, because it's been 8 years now in which I've been taking pictures. I made her in 2016. And in California, I guess is where I made her in Colombia in 2016, and then I brought her to the United States. I took some pictures of her in Jupiter and Juno. Those were the most difficult pictures to take, because on the beach, the ocean kind of started eating it or sucking it. We had to get a fireman to help us take it out. I thought I was going to lose her. I was like, oh no, okay. I was taking the pictures from the pier, and I was like, oh wow, what's going on? it's been a beautiful project to make. I'm always looking for places to take pictures. It's been discovering how far can you go with your imagination, because it's just one project. So you have to transform it. You have to adapt also. I also have, two more pieces. I have the dress about sustainability. I've been working with inner tubes from bicycles. My husband and I, we ride bicycles, and he has a bicycle store. So we have a lot of bicycle tubes. And I was like, I have to do something with this. So that's, we'll talk about that later. But VTG is my main project. Oh, it's over?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay. Sorry.
Milena, we have the real thing here, you know?
Yes, well, no, I have no idea how far I'm gonna go with it. I'm not in a rush either. I think it's my lifetime project. There came a moment that we all want to be in galleries and we all want to sell, but I kind of started getting tired of that. I was like, why do I have to depend on a sell? Okay, I'm going to have to find somehow to live of something, but I need to create. I can't live without doing art or breathing art. So yeah, I take pictures of her. Sometimes I'll just leave it there, and it becomes like an amusement park for all the animals, the lizards, the birds, the iguanas, myself. I'll take pictures. Yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes I'm like, oh no, 8 years. I'll just keep her in a storage for a few months, and I feel like she's calling me. I feel like I start getting like a call. And I take her out of the bag, and sometimes she's easy to work with. Sometimes she's a mess. And then I know it's not her, it's me. I'm a mess. That's why I need to go talk to her. I need to go do something. I need to go take a good picture. Until I don't get a good picture, I won't put her away. And time has been curing her, so it's full of holes. It's been getting wet. It's been in the ocean. It has history, and my idea is to make a book. I have so many stories to tell. Each picture is a whole different story. So many stories to tell. I would like to make a documentary, maybe, or I hope so. I think it's my life.
Okay, we're going to continue. This is just the introduction. We have like questions to go through. Please follow Milena and everybody. Please support them. So I got you up,
Okay.
Dana.
Yes. So thank you, Juliana Book, for this putting together this evening. I really think that these kinds of interdisciplinary discussions are really important. So I'm excited to hear from you and all of us to talk together. But also, and I'm probably a little biased here, but I think this is a stunning exhibition. And the three of us, I think our work really speaks to each other. And I've just been really excited to share this space with people. So thank you for that. So for those of you who might have come in late, I'm one half of the artist collaboration KX2. My sister and I create environmentally conscious wall sculpture and freestanding sculpture in metal and painting. Just for a brief intro to the work, a lot of it is either salvaged or repurposed industrial metals combined with more traditional artistic materials like painting on canvas. So,
If you want to, whenever I need to pass.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this first piece is an installation called Boil Notice, and Boil Notice, this was exhibited at the Pompano Beach Cultural Center about 1 year ago, and what it does is track the number of boil notices in Broward County during the year of 2022. So most of you are probably from Florida or have lived here for a while, most of you have probably experienced a boil notice. When I first moved here in 2017, I I had never experienced one of these before, and I kind of became fascinated by them and wondering how often they happen. So I started to track them, going to the different cities' websites, social media. I use Nextdoor app a lot, and they happen quite often. And in 2022, 270 days out of 365 days, there was a boil notice in at least one neighborhood in Broward County. And this is not just one house, this is a whole neighborhood. And many of the days there were multiple neighborhoods that you couldn't drink the water. So here we are in Broward County, in a very affluent county in this country, and we don't always have access to clean water. So each individual piece here, it's 365 individual sculptures that my sister and I went to different salvage yards. We called lots of local plumbers, had them donate old plumbing parts and water spigots. And then we constructed the days that you could not drink the water. It's clogged with pigmented cement and rubble collected from construction sites. And then on the days that were clear that you could drink the water, it's a plant-based resin. I didn't want to use plastic, for obvious reasons. So it's a plant-based resin that looks like kind of a clear drop. So if you've gotten a chance to see the exhibition in the back corner there, I have the most recent data before the show opened. So February and March of this year, the data is visually presented back there in that alcove. It wasn't good. This year is not good. Spoiler alert. And then the next series I wanted to briefly talk about, because there's a lot of work here that is within this series. We call it our obstruction series or our cut canvas series, where this is an inspiration image. But we're very interested in infrastructure, specifically water infrastructure, and how climate change and increased population, development, and pollution affects our infrastructure. Always kind of fascinated by the way pipelines kind of run through this country, like veins run through your body. So just like veins in your body, any kind of clog or break, and it causes havoc to the whole system. So obviously these are storm drains filled with plastic, which is not an uncommon sight, and gave us the idea for the cut canvas, which is big paintings on canvas that we're cutting up and then actually dyeing and painting more over them to create these cascading ribbons of color. So next. That one's got zoomed in, yep. There we go. So that's an image of a piece called Cascade, and this is at the New Orleans Contemporary Art Center. Go to the next one. And so also right now, if you happen to be flying out of Fort Lauderdale, in or out of Fort Lauderdale, in Terminal 1, we have an installation entitled Hydra, where this talks about some of the flooding issues that we're having in Fort Lauderdale, and actually we got this, we got notified that we were going to be doing this installation the same week that we had the big floods that hit the Fort Lauderdale airport last year. So it was like, okay, perfect timing. And most of the metal here is a combination between, again, salvaged water parts, where we're going to construction sites, salvage yards, and we're getting the used water parts that kind of are rusted and crusty, cleaning them up a little bit, and then inserting the canvas, but also combined with newer metal parts, and then the PVC plastic that we're basically kind of band-aiding all of our infrastructure with these. You dig up the old and you're putting in these new plastic PVC water pipes. So that is what this one is, and I think that might be it.
You want the video?
Oh, the video, yes. Yeah, it's just a quick. So again, some of the cut canvas pieces are back here, and then one of the newest piece is back there. We call it Array. This is our first kind of foray into dealing with heat, some of the air and heat issues that we're having, everywhere around the world. But So the salvage parts, this is in the last alcove back here. So we have, they're salvaged air conditioning parts that get all kind of crusted and rusted and rainbowy colors, which we think are beautiful when we're in the salvage yards. And picked them up, and it was our first time really trying to think about weaving and just the idea of breath and weaving and the knotting. And how it's going to be more and more difficult to breathe as air quality is not great, and also just the heat. It's also interesting, and I know that you guys track this in sustainability, how the flood maps, when you overlay them on the heat maps, they really line up where the heat is the worst is also where the flooding is the worst. So this is an area that I really see us exploring a lot in the future.
Thank you. All right.
Good.
Now, Dr. Lemaitre. And we're going to make it big. Okay.
We can start there. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Lemaitre. I am the city's sustainability manager. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for sharing your work. I'm excited to talk more about it. And thank you to Dr. Juliana and our museum staff for hosting this event. So, Coral Springs, I'm not an artist. I'm bringing in the less fun technical aspect of this presentation.
Great.
Yes, thank you. Coral Springs approaches sustainability from this three-pronged approach. Every organization has a different definition and approach to sustainability. A lot of people associate it with environmentalism, but it's actually just one of three approaches to sustainability that all need to be interconnected and evaluated as a system. So really, sustainability is about this big picture system approach and holistic approach to make sure that everything an operation is doing is considering long-term well-being. So the way that the city approaches it is through financial, operational, and environmental sustainability. We have really great teams that focus on the financial and the operational sustainability aspects. So a lot of the times I find myself focusing more on the environmental sustainability aspects, and some parts of my role are monitoring. I might be consulting. I do a lot of partnering. I lead some projects. But most of the time I'm partnering and collaborating with all of our other departments and staff in the city. And also a lot of the time I am just tracking all the great work that our city is doing, including our parks and recreation that is here today, and our community development, and also seeing what our amazing environment and sustainability committee is doing, which they are all here today. Thank you so much for coming. And then I'll show the next slide. So without getting into too much of what we do, highlighting some of our environmental work in the city, we have an amazing community garden that is run by our Rotary organization and volunteers. We just doubled the size of this community garden. It's open to all of our residents. It's a completely organic garden. We have cleanups from multiple departments with city staff, volunteer staff. We just opened a composting program, so we're trying to encourage the reduction in food waste and encourage a circular economy, making sure that we are not wasting anything. We have a really strong recycling program. When I'm not working my desk job, I am the garbage police at our events. That's bottom left, and that's true. We have our Environment and Sustainability Committee on the bottom. And then also a lot of community outreach, so surveying at community events. Our city is also highly committed to greenhouse gas emissions reduction and energy conservation. So one thing I do want to highlight is we are committed to the global race to zero. So a lot of my job is making sure that whenever we're implementing a new program or policy, we're considering responsible materials management and how we can reduce our greenhouse gases, which is really reducing energy expenditure. And in the long run, it's sustainability, because anytime we're reducing our resource use, our energy use, we're also saving money. So it's also communicating that to people. It's whenever we're really helping the environment, there's always a positive benefit, whether that's health, public health, or really economic benefits, because at the end of the day, if you're saving water, you're also saving money. So that is my quick overview. I don't know if I can ask a question or...
If you want to ask questions, yes, I have some prepared, but I wanted you all to meet and you have questions for each other, you can start, yes.
Okay. So something that I want to finish off on that's probably the biggest challenge to any sustainability program, organization, initiative is changing people's behavior. And in order for people to be really involved, it's a complete paradigm and mindset shift. So I'm sure that most of the people in here are very passionate about it, but we all know people who are not. And that's not out of it's usually not out of a not caring for the environment, not caring for public health. It's just that they don't know, or they're used to what they've always known, and this is just something different. So one of the biggest challenges is that behavior change. And I just wanted to highlight from learning about all of your work, I think art is a beautiful way to resonate with the public and find another way of outreach and connection to sustainability, to the environment through history. The 20th century was huge for conservationists. Through personal connection and self-realization, I think we all feel that when we go out into nature. And of course through contemporary issues, boil notices, the waste management issues that we're facing. So I guess my question to everybody, and this was inspired by Dr. Juliana and some work that she sent us, was what does each of your work, is there a call to action that you're hoping to evoke from the public when they view your work?
Should I start?
Sure.
Well, it's interesting. I had a conversation not long ago with a gallerist from Miami, and I said to her, do you think that art can change people's minds? Because my work is very political. I haven't shown you some of the really in-your-face stuff. I feel like landscape is something that we all love, and we live in Florida and the tropics, and for me, I have strong feelings about these things, and but it's discouraging because you feel like you're preaching to the choir all the time. So this is a great show. I mean, Dana's work, you know, having it be an object that you can look at instead of a chart, right? It's really powerful. For me, I mean, I work with newspapers for so long as something that is disposable, and even the bark paper that I did the prints on is from nature. So I feel like the materials that I use are kind of, you know, sustainable materials. But as far as whether it changes people's minds, I don't know. I'd like to hear what these guys say about that.
Me? I think, I mean, we have to believe that, right? Or why, you know, why are we doing this? I mean, I think that raising awareness, certainly raising awareness is you know, sitting in the Boyle Notice, the show, and I can't tell you how many times people came through and said, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was going on. So I also think that raising awareness and changing people's minds and habits on things, you've got to make them think, and you've got to touch them in some way, and that's where I think art can really do that, because if the art is beautiful, if it's engaging, if it makes people want to look closer, if it makes people want to say, what is this, and read your statement, or if you just want to spend time with the art, if it's something you want to spend time with, I think that is where the change can happen. If people, you know, if the art makes you slow down and think about these things. I think one-liner art doesn't, you know, if it's just kind of in your face and one-liner, it's got to have more. It's got to have something that makes you want to spend time with it. So hopefully that starts to do something.
What is beautiful of a setting like a museum is that sometimes I walk and I overhear the conversation. So they may not understand the artist's intention behind one of the pieces, but they have this connection and they interpret it and it means something. These shows and being able to remove barriers like accessibility. People, this is a free museum, free admission, to be able to have people also give them a sense of belonging and acceptance and coming to the museum. When you hear the conversations, they are, and obviously we put a lot of pressure, I guess, in younger generations, but kids get it, and you hear them having the conversations about the environment and how to protect them, and they know about the animals. And so, there's hope. Obviously, we need to do something because, to leave something for them, but I think that having spaces where we can have conversations, even just like this tonight, it allows us for not have these situations or these problems just to stay there.
Yeah, I actually wonder if there's more that, our departments could do together, because I think I'm using the data that I'm getting from websites like what I go to the Broward Resilience website, so if there's ways for us to partner more, to get these, to collaborate more and get these messages out, I'd be super down for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something that as I said, I'm the technical expert, so I will give you charts and graphs all day long, and I can see people's faces going blank. So I think these are wonderful opportunities, and I know so events like this are wonderful, hosted by Coral Springs, and I know Broward County, for example, has art competition for kids, and Coral Springs participates in the Broward Waterways cleanup, and they do a competition every year for kids to decorate the t-shirt, and that's still targeting youth, so I think it's important to target adults and make sure that we're not only targeting youth. So I do think there's lots of space for more collaboration and communication in this way.
Well, I think also you were mentioning beauty. That's something that's important to me too, because when the work is compelling and it's beautiful, people spend time with it, particularly with my newspaper pieces, because almost all of them are about immigration. And I often say, slow down, and they see there's something there. What is it? So I think, but not everybody feels that way. I think that we're kind of in alignment, all three of us, in terms of making things that are elegant and beautiful that people want to spend time with.
I have a question for whoever wants to answer, and this is something that I'm always conflicted with, and is that, when museums put together shows, and this is really when you think about art fairs, so much shipping, so much tape, so much of these productions take place that it hurts me when I hear from art handlers that help put these pieces together, and the amount of waste and disregard and the costs. A tape, when they run out of tape, especially if it's a fair in Miami Beach, there's no Home Depot close by, they can charge $60 for a tape, and people will pay for that. And so
I know that store.
Yes, and so, or it's companies actually. There's companies in our Basel, in the art fairs, that they're ready with the boxes, they're ready with the $60 tapes to, whoever needs it. And for instance, like at the museum, I really enjoy working with local artists because we're reducing the amount of shipping and the amount of packaging that we need to use. But that's a problem, and I always scratch my hair like, what could we do to have less impact? And these art fairs, they're usually on the commercial side. So I'm wondering if they know the impact, maybe, what was the name, like carbon footprint that they do when they bring these fairs. And we love them because we get all this exposure and we get all this economy to here. Do you have any thoughts, or have any of you ponder or encounter that situation? Plus, it costs a lot of money to ship.
Yeah, it's a real problem, and it's you try to do the little things like using the reusable blankets to wrap your work instead of plastic, and and I try to do, for shipping art, I try to jump on the art shuttles that have routes that go from city to city, and you try to put your artwork in the shuttle instead of, and then you don't even have to box it or anything, you just kind of put it in that blanket that can be reused a bunch of times. But it's and I think, I don't know about you guys, but I know artists have so much guilt about making trash.
No, it's terrible. And plus, sometimes you end up losing your work or leaving it somewhere because you can't bring it back if it didn't sell, if you don't have where to keep it. So it's like, I travel with mine, I sacrifice clothes, but I bring my, I'll bring my piece. I have a bag for her, and I'll throw in a little shirt or something. I know I can get a shirt, whatever. So this one's easy because she's easy to travel with. She's not easy to work with, but she's easy to travel with. But I haven't sold it. I'm not interested in selling it yet. So this work is sustainable. For me, for my pocket, and for many other things. Also, this technique, I've noticed that it's a wonderful way of keeping track of nature, because the print that you get is the exact print of the plant. So you're gonna get the exact. I'm making like books of Florida, because I've been giving a lot of workshops. So in every workshop, I test different plants. So I'm learning about all the native plants in Florida, which one works, which one doesn't. And little by little, I've been keeping track of different plants. I'm like, okay, this is, it's like my botanical garden book of the plants that I've been testing. And I think that later on, it will be a book that you can go and do some research on, because it's left the print of the plant.
I stopped painting because I can't store stuff like that. As a matter of fact, my gallery in New York, galleries really suffered during the pandemic, and he's still clawing his way back. And he said, I have 2 storage units of these huge photographs that are framed. So paper, you can roll it up. And that's, to me, that makes it easier. Artists have tremendous expenses. I don't think people realize. Not only expenses, but, the extra work from keeping up a website. Don't get me started anyway. You kind of have to have your own personal secretary. But yeah, there's a lot of expenses. When you see that, the money that, the Art Basel, it is kind of nauseating in a way. The art world's not very eco-friendly, let's put it that way.
That's why it's important in this conversation.
Yeah.
So I want to open it to the public. Does anybody have questions? Yes.
Before this started, I took a brief walk around to look at everything, and I didn't have time to read the descriptions. It was so valuable listening to each of you describe how you made the pieces, why you made the pieces, like all the faucets. I'm looking at them, okay, yeah, that's interesting. Oh, look, there are some that are clear. But I didn't really have any understanding of it. And even reading the little blurb quickly, that's interesting. Hearing you all actually describe the process and what it means to you. Perfect example, the leaf. That's really cool, that's a leaf. But it was all the individual papers. And I'm wondering if perhaps along with this exhibition that there would be some way of having something on video of you all describing the pieces as you did here, because it was, especially really for everybody, everybody can, read the stuff, but it's so much more powerful, to me at least, to hear you all describe, this is what I did, this is why I did it, this is what materials I used, like describing going to salvage yards or taking the fabric, taking her with you. So if at all possible, that would be my suggestion, is to do some type of an accompanying video that would explain the different exhibits.
That's great feedback. Thank you so much. These conversation, we're recording it, but I'm gonna make notes for upcoming shows, because this one, sadly, this is the last public program. It ends in 2 weeks, but I will make a note for upcoming shows to explain more of the artistic processes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for saying that, because, we kind of feel like, blah, 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 and it's kind of really nice if somebody is appreciating it.
I don't know what I was expecting tonight, but I think this was terrific.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much. That's so nice.
I was very nervous.
So was I. So was I.
But you do workshops all the time.
But with 2 or 3 people, 4.
There's a question over there, yes? You do that, you do, okay.
No, I think you said it so well, where you know, about educating people, and you know, it's not that, I think, you know, coming back to the sustainability, I don't think that people don't want to do things, they just don't know. And first of all, yes, amazing pieces. I love to hear, you know, your thoughts behind it, and I personally would love to see this out in the city. Like, I feel like I love it in a museum, but going back to it takes the shock, the wow, right? Like, you got to get people interested in something, gravitate them to it, and then teach them. And I would love to see some of these, like, around the city, so that people start talking about it, people take pictures about it, and then, to your point, have this information to say, this is why I did this, or this is the problems that are out there, and to educate. So anyway, I would love to take all this stuff and put it out there, and, you know, get people
Traveling
We already have proposals for what we can do together.
And I agree with you, because it's hard to get people into a museum. So if
Yes,
it's out there,
exactly.
they would,
Exactly.
yeah,
But
excellent.
beautiful stuff.
And it's great feedback. The city has a public art committee. So, and I sit in it, I don't vote, but as a staff member, so I will pass the suggestion. I mean, for us, that's great, because the more we can be out there.
Exposure.
And you saw, I mean, Dana has been, or KX2, they've been in the airport, they're being already outside,
Yeah,
trying to
It's amazing to
catch
see
people.
that interaction with the public, especially at the airport. And, you know, it's through security, so I can't even go in to witness it. But when I get pictures and I see kids, I mean, they're touching it, they're, you know, they're you know,
They can
some
touch
of
it, but it's not
well,
behind
she
glass?
warned me that people were going to touch
Okay,
it.
it's
but
not behind glass.
No, yeah.
that's
So
great.
so things have gotten untied, retied,
Oh, wow.
and I actually did one where I had people write experiences on the canvas and then tie it into
That's cool.
to the piece, and that was in a public, that was in a hotel. So I do think that. I mean, we love seeing the work in the museum, right? It's this,
Yes.
this peaceful space that really gives it that platform. But yes, it's probably has, you know, at least as much impact, if not more, when it's in the public with the people.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next kind of question, but you answered it. If you guys mind that, you know, people touch it, and I bet sometimes you go back and you see a whole nother creation because people are interacting with it. So that's
Yeah, that looks different right now at the airport. That was when it was first installed. Now, the most recent video I saw, things are different.
And that's great feedback. Like the next exhibition that we're going to have, I just did a studio visit this morning, and there may be community participation where the way that we install the piece is going to grow. We're going to have a series of workshops where people can participate, leave the pieces here. So we're going to install a piece, and by the end of the show, it's going to be larger. So follow our website for more information. Did you have a question in the back?
I did.
Yes.
I'm fairly new to Florida, and I didn't know about these oil notices.
Just wait.
And have you been doing it for how many years?
I've been paying attention. I moved here in 2017. My sister had lived here for long before that, but I've been tracking for the past 3 or 4 years.
Since you have exposed the public to it, well, it's new for me, but has there, first of all, what's precipitating it? What's causing these to have oil notices?
So, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, a lot of the time, storms, sea level rise, development, anytime, you know, our infrastructure is behind all of the new development that's happening. So it's just pressures on the system. The groundwater rising causes pressures on the system, but basically outdated infrastructure that just can't keep up with what's going on with both population and sea level rise and the storms.
And since you have exposed this, has it gotten better?
It's gotten, this year is worse so far. This year, it's actually been, 2022 was 270 days, 2023 was 272, I believe, and then this year, it's been really bad this year. It's not good this year. It looks like it's going to be a lot worse.
Well, hopefully this infrastructure package that we have for the federal government, I don't know if that's going to help or not, but hey, now that I'm aware of it, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, make sure you sign up for those alerts. Mm-hmm. And you know, you can all sign up for alerts for your own house, but you know, anytime you go somewhere else, you have to rely on the fact that they're aware of what the situation is with their water. And you know, I at the last boil notice that I received in the building that I'm in, we knew the problem was happening a couple days before the notice was actually there. If your water pressure starts to get low, if things don't sound good or look good, just boil your water and be safe.
Well, don't say climate change. You're not allowed to say climate change.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we live with our water.
No, I know, but I'm just telling you what the governor says.
I mean, I will say I expected to get a little more backlash from that. It actually made the front page of the Sun Sentinel, and I was bracing myself for legal issues, and nothing happened. So, but no improvement happened either. So, I don't know.
Any other questions? Yes.
Dr. Andrea, could you speak a little bit to the composting program?
Yes.
I live in Coral Springs now, and I would love to hear more about that.
Yes, so I'll share just a little bit, but I'm happy to speak with anybody about all our programs. I mentioned, I think, like 4 out of so many that we have. We just implemented we've been composting for 2 years now at City Hall and at events, but we just opened a new public service that's free to all of our residents. It's an organics drop-off program every Saturday at the waste transfer station all the way west on Wiles Road. You can drop off all of your organics products up to 5 gallons, which is like a big paint bucket. And then about every 6 months or so, we'll contact participants to come pick up a finished compost. So we're doing all the work for you. If you want to compost at home, that's great. And if you don't want to, like me, you can just drop off your stuff and then pick up the compost 6 months later.
Nice.
Yeah, that's our compost program. And I wanted to just plug for the city, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned we have some very special environmental preserves in the city and environmentally sensitive lands. And Casey Lee is here. She's our city arborist, and she works so very hard to make sure that we are planting the right vegetation and that all these new developments coming in are sustainably developed with green infrastructure, with the proper trees. She's educating our community on how that can actually save you energy. We have Lou Goldstein. I don't know where he is, but there's Lou. I don't have my glasses on. So Lou has actually been working on that for a very, very long time. He takes care of all of our parks, making sure that we actually have native vegetation in our parks, and we're taking care of invasive species through all of our parks. We have Roy Goldstein here, who is the former mayor. And Roy actually has proposed many art projects of painting in Sandy Ridge Sanctuary. He gives tours of this sanctuary, and he actually spearheaded a lot of our environmental programs when he was mayor in... when he was mayor.
I was mayor 2010 to 2012.
Yes, so I did want to highlight that. But yes, thank you for the interest in the compost program, and I'm happy to speak with anybody at any time and share my email about all of the wonderful things all of our staff is really working on in the city.
Juliana, just wanted to mention that John Kunkel Small, whose photographs these are, if you look him up, he was really quite an interesting character. And he wrote a book called Florida from Eden to Sahara, and it was about saving the wetlands. This was back in, I think the book was published in 1929. So, and the Deering Estate is really beautiful. If you go there, you can see, scenes that look pretty much like these historical photographs. That one, Oolite, of course, those of you in the art world know that the South Florida art center, is now called Oolite. And Oolite is what we are on. And it holds water. And this is why the flooding, because, the Oolite is porous and it just holds water, and so we get more water and it just comes up. So anyway, John Kunkel-Small, very, very, very interesting guy. Just want to put in a plug for John Kunkel-Small.
I had a question. I was not aware of any of these sustainability programs, so it sounds like you have a really active program with a lot of community involvement and outreach. Do other communities in Florida have such active programs?
Yes, and I do have to applaud the efforts from a lot of our cities. We have a very active sustainability network connecting different cities and people who are in my position throughout the state of Florida. Sometimes we hear a lot of the barriers that we'll face, but in truth, a lot of cities are doing as much as they possibly can through other services. So yes, a lot of cities are very active in these programs. A lot of cities have a lot of recycling education, native species and gardening education, energy conservation outreach. I am biased towards Coral Springs. I think we're far superior to all of the other cities. But yes, I do have to say I have a lot of colleagues in other cities, and they're all doing really as much positive work as I think they can. And also sometimes, since sustainability is all about the long term, sometimes it's a very slow and steady progress. So we all want to see all EVs, and we all want to see completely solar powered buildings, but the truth is we need to make sure that the infrastructure needs to be updated, so we're not just throwing money at something that doesn't need to be updated, right? So we can say, hey, I want to see solar power, but the truth is if we just got new lights 2 years ago, we're not just going to take out those new lights and replace it. So it's definitely a slow but steady progress that is happening and here in the city and in other cities as well.
Any last questions? Thoughts or comments? Well, thank you so much. I'll